Hello. It is 10:53 p.m. and it is January the 2nd, 2025. January the 2nd, 2025. You know what's crazy is that I've been waiting for the top of the year it's been a few months now. You know how you get to that point at the top of the year where you're writing something and you just like automatically write the year prior? And you're like, oh, I forgot we're in a new year. Child, it ain't none of that shit. Do you hear me? It's 2025 hard all day. Do you hear me? It is 2025 in bold black letters around this bitch on every document, honey. I don't give a fuck what's going on. Do you hear me? Honey. Anyway, so I was just honestly unwinding and looking at some stuff. And I said to myself, I was like, you're probably going to end up doing some vlogging this year. You just got to be ready for how you're going to save your content or whatever. It's not necessarily, like I had said, I mentioned this on IATB 100. I mentioned that my content is going to basically be on my website for 2025. So that's actually where I started, was on my website, but they kept messing with my website. So I was like, well, shit, I don't know what's going on, but I still have to, speak on my shit. I still have to make sure that I'm getting some things taken care of and done. There's certain things that need to be said, certain things that don't need to be said, certain things that, I've already had within my own personal project rollouts where it's just like very casual, but there's still certain things that I want to, discuss, topics that I want to discuss, just so that when I end up writing a little bit about it, I don't really have to face so many questions about, well, what exactly did you mean by that? Well, there's a video on that. You can go to this video right here and that'll answer that question. And then I don't have to worry about having to repeat myself because I have done too much of that already. Actually, I don't think it's been too much. I think it's been just enough. And one of the reasons that people keep saying that I'm repeating myself is because I don't think that they realize like there's so many filters between my content, like the raw content, and what I'm sure other people have heard. And then we also have, I guess people are like throwing out some of the, there's some stuff that people are trying to use against me also, and one thing in particular is I believe it's something that happened when I was really, really young. Like, I mean, like pretty much like a baby. And, me and my mother, I don't really talk about that or plan to talk about it in the book because I don't remember a whole lot about it, but I do sometimes have some issues with it because I'll have, I have issues with it because we never really dealt with it within my family, and it was a setup by a family member and it was a demonic ritual. And I honestly think it's really sad and it's terrible that humans would do other humans that way. But I've talked about that already and I don't really want to highlight that. I just want to make sure that, that is definitely known, that, my mom and I were definitely set up. And we were set up by a family member and targeted by a cult. And we were set up in a demonic ritual. And it was very dark. And so I grew up being prayed over and, making sure that, I'm, in my church bag and, just always making sure that I was on the right side of right, because there was so much that was done to try and turn me away from God, So I knew that at a very young age that there was just like something around me and my family that really wanted to turn us away from the Most High. And my mom just wouldn't let that happen. And that's one thing I can say. I was not as I was not as vigilant about making sure that my children had the doctrine in their life. You get what I'm saying? They needed to have that, but I always felt like I was just too busy and this and that. And then when I went to church, we were in church for a long, long time, consistently for several years, most of their early lives. So they still have a really good foundation. But I went through church hurt, jealousy in the church, and people thinking that because I'm a single woman that somebody want their man, and that ain't the case. It's just me and my babies, but I'm in here to serve the Lord. But then you got people looking side eye. It was very, very odd for me, and I hate to say it, but I've only been back to church a few times since then, and that was several years ago. I poured a lot of my time and my spiritual effort and into church. Basically, every time the doors were open, I was in there. You know what I'm saying? Whether it was Bible study, whether it was women's meeting, whether it was we having a dinner, whether it was a choir rehearsal, and I just want to sit in the pews and listen to the choir, sing, or Sunday service, morning service, evening service. Like, I was one of those women who made sure that my family was in the church. And then I went through church hurt, and it just completely broke my heart, and I had to deal with that, And so by the time I had gotten that taken care of within me and kind of really got that healing out the way, I went to another church, which it actually was a mega church, and I didn't even know it was a mega church. And, because I don't really keep up with, what's going on with who has what movement going on and stuff like that. I was too busy trying to get me and my family back established. But then I went through another instance of church hurt, but it was done in a different way, a more conservative way. And I started going to church online and streaming that, because they would do services that would stream. And so I started doing that, and that worked out for a while, but I still felt like, the human to human contact and being able to interact with other members was something that I definitely missed. And I wanted my children to experience that as well. At the time, my daughter was showing